The music stopped the moment she walked in, mud on her shoes, fire in her eyes. At a billionaire's wedding, a homeless woman stood in silence, but behind that silence was a secret worth millions. By the time they found out who she really was, it was already too late. It was the kind of wedding that stopped traffic. Rows of white roses lined the marble steps of the historic manor, and soft string music floated through the air like perfume. Guests in tailored suits and silk dresses sipped champagne beneath crystal chandeliers. Everything gleamed, too perfect, almost unreal. And then she appeared. Marissa Lane stood just beyond the iron gates. Her coat was worn, the hem fraying near her knees. A duffel bag hung over one shoulder, scuffed and tired like the woman carrying it. Her boots, mud-caked and heavy, didn't belong in a place like this. Neither did she. But her eyes told a different story. They were sharp, focused, like she wasn't lost at all. Like this was exactly where she was meant to be. One of the valet boys noticed her first. He gave her a quick once-over, then glanced nervously toward the entrance. Ma'am? This is a private event, he called, polite but uneasy. Marissa didn't answer right away. She stared past him, through the glass doors, at the man standing under the chandelier. Ethan Royce, the groom, her ex, still tall, still effortless in a designer tux, laughing, holding hands with a woman who looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. Marissa's chest tightened, not with jealousy, not even heartbreak, just the ache of being forgotten, replaced. A middle-aged woman in a beige gown leaned in to whisper to another guest, her eyes locked on Marissa. There was a shift in the air, like the moment before a storm. People were noticing, and it wasn't curiosity. It was judgment. Marissa adjusted her bag and stepped forward. Hey, you can't just walk in, said a younger man in a headset, rushing toward her. His tone wasn't aggressive, but firm. Do you have an invitation? Marissa's voice was calm, low. No, I'm not here for the party. His brows knit. Then why are you here? She hesitated, just for a moment. Her gaze flicked back toward Ethan. To remember something, she said quietly. Or maybe to remind him. From across the glass doors, Ethan turned. His laughter faded. His smile dropped. And when his eyes met Marissa's, something shifted in his face. A flicker of recognition. Then dread. She wasn't just a homeless woman at his wedding. She was the woman. The past he never thought he'd see again. And she had just become the most dangerous person in the room. The air was cooler beneath the trees outside the venue, but Marissa barely noticed. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her bag, as whispers spread behind her like wildfire. Is that her? Someone murmured. No way, he never talked about an ex. She looks rough. Maybe she's just crazy. She didn't turn around, didn't flinch, because once those whispers were applause. 3 years ago, Marissa Lane had walked through the same kind of doors, shoulders back, head high, on the arm of the very same man who now wouldn't meet her eyes. She used to be Ethan's pride, his partner, the brilliant strategist behind his first big deal. She'd spoken in boardrooms, flown first class, made moves that helped him build the empire he flaunted now. But that was before the market crashed, before her sister's sudden death, before the scandal, before Ethan disappeared from her life like smoke. She remembered the night it all cracked. It had been raining. She was pacing in their shared apartment, papers spread across the dining table. Figures that didn't add up, red flags no one else seemed to notice. Ethan walked in late, loosened his tie, and smiled like nothing was wrong. I can fix it, he'd said. You caused it, she'd whispered. But instead of taking responsibility, he pulled away. Slowly, then completely. Now, as she stood outside the wedding of the man who walked over her downfall like a stepping stone, all those memories pressed against her chest like stones. A little girl with a flower crown stared up at her from behind a rose bush, wide-eyed and curious. Marissa offered a soft smile. The girl smiled back, innocent, kind. Then her mother grabbed her hand and pulled her away, casting Marissa a quick, sharp glance. It stung, not because of the judgment, but because deep down, part of her wondered if they were right. She didn't belong here anymore. But still, she stayed. Because this wasn't about crashing a wedding. It wasn't about revenge. It was about a single, quiet truth. Marissa Lane hadn't come to ruin anyone's day. She'd come to reclaim a piece of herself, even if it meant being the ghost at her own funeral. The music inside picked up again, jazz this time, elegant and safe. Laughter echoed through the open doors. Glasses clinked. The world kept spinning, just as it had when Marissa disappeared. But not for Ethan. He stood near the bar, frozen, his bride's hand lightly resting on his chest. "Ethan," she asked softly, following his gaze. "What is it?" He blinked, tried to smile. "Nothing. Just thought I saw someone." But his eyes never left Marissa. Outside, the staff were growing uneasy. One of the groomsmen, a tall guy in a blue suit with too much cologne, stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave," he said, louder than necessary. "This is a private event." Marissa raised her chin, voice steady. "I'm not causing trouble." He scoffed. "You kind of are, just by being here." "Who is she?" someone whispered near the entryway. Ethan's bride turned to him again, her tone tightening. "Seriously, who is that woman?" Ethan didn't answer. He was already moving. Marissa watched him push past the crowd, his expression unreadable. She thought she'd feel something when he got close. Anger, maybe. Regret. Some flicker of the man she once knew. But when he stopped in front of her, all she saw was fear. Not panic. Not guilt. Fear. "Marissa," he said, barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" The way he said her name, it was soft, like it hurt his throat to speak it. She didn't flinch, just wanted to see how it ended. He glanced around, people were watching. Phones were subtly raised. A nearby guest tilted their drink to listen. "You can't be here," he hissed. She raised an eyebrow. "Clearly I am. Security will. Let them." Her voice was sharp now, but controlled. "You walked away without a word, Ethan. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding. I came to remind you that I exist." His face paled. For a moment, he looked like the groom from the old days, the one who used to read her poetry on the roof of their old apartment, barefoot and broke. "I don't want a scene," he said. Marissa tilted her head. "Then maybe you should have answered my messages 3 years ago." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The groomsmen from earlier stepped in again, this time firmer. "We're going to have to escort you out." "I'm leaving," Marissa said, stepping back. "You don't need to drag me." But before she turned, she met Ethan's eyes one last time, and smiled. Not cruel, not triumphant, just sad, because she knew something no one else in that room did. And Ethan, he knew it too. He'd buried the past. But now, it was standing at his wedding in muddy boots, threatening to dig everything back up. "Wait," Ethan called out, following her through the side garden. The music inside faded behind them, replaced by the low rustle of leaves and the faint hum of traffic beyond the gates. Marissa kept walking, slow and steady. "Marissa, please." She stopped, not because he asked, but because deep down she wanted to hear what kind of lie he'd choose this time. She turned around, arms folded across her chest. "I've got about 2 minutes before your bride calls the cops. Use them wisely." Ethan looked different up close. Older, yes, but also thinner behind the wealth, like success had stretched him thin. There were creases near his mouth that hadn't been there before. Regret? Maybe. Or maybe just guilt wearing a tuxedo. "You shouldn't have come," he said, voice low. "Believe me, I didn't want to." Her eyes didn't waver. "But you left me no choice." "I didn't leave you, Marissa. You just disappeared. That did it." She laughed, but there was no joy in it. Just disbelief. "You don't get to rewrite history, Ethan." She stepped closer. "You think I vanished? You watched me fall. You stepped over me to get here." His lips parted like he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. "I lost everything," she continued. Her voice cracked, but she didn't break. "My sister died, the company collapsed, and you, my fiancé, ghosted me while I was cleaning out the apartment we lived in." "I panicked," he muttered. "No, you calculated." Her stare pinned him in place. "And you made sure no one ever asked why I took the blame." Ethan's face shifted. Barely, but enough. A shadow in his eyes. "There was no other way," he said quietly. "Funny," she replied. "You never said that while I was drowning in legal fees." Silence fell between them. Not peaceful. Heavy. Then Marissa looked up at the sky. Clouds rolling in. I don't want your apology, she said. I came here because you've rewritten the past for so long. Even you started believing it. He swallowed hard. What do you want then? She looked at him, eyes clear. Nothing except the truth. For once, Ethan opened his mouth, then stopped. Because deep down, he knew something was coming. Something bigger than this conversation. Something she hadn't said yet. And that scared him more than anything. The reception buzzed with energy, soft lighting, violinists, and laughter laced with champagne. A waiter passed by with flutes of rose, and the new bride, Lana, smiled brightly for yet another photo. She leaned into Ethan's arm as they returned to the hall, but his posture had changed. Stiff, distracted. Is everything okay? She asked softly. You've been off since. Yeah, Ethan cut in quickly. Just tired. Big day. But Lana wasn't buying it. She caught the tension in his jaw, the distant look in his eyes. Meanwhile, outside, Marissa lingered beneath the glow of a garden lantern. The cool air bit at her fingers, but her heart burned. She should have left. She told herself that. But silence was what destroyed her last time. Not today. Inside, a large projector was being set up for the toast slideshow, childhood photos, engagement videos, clips of Ethan's rise to fame. Marissa moved toward the edge of the reception tent, unnoticed for now. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, battered flash drive. Her fingers hesitated at the edge of the table where the laptop sat. Then click. The screen glitched briefly, just long enough for a few people to notice. Then the images changed. Not baby pictures, not vacation smiles, documents, spreadsheets, financial transfers, old logos from the startup Ethan once co-owned with Marissa, the one that crumbled in the scandal. Gasps filled the air. What is this? Someone murmured. The screen shifted again, this time to an audio clip. A male voice, Ethan's, nervous but clear. If this gets out, I'm done. Just get her to sign it. She's loyal. She'll take the fall. The crowd went still. Lana turned to Ethan, her hand slipping from his. What is this, Ethan? He stood frozen, pale, exposed. Marissa stepped into the light. She didn't need to raise her voice. It was already quiet enough to hear a glass drop. I didn't ruin his company, she said, eyes locked on him. I saved it, and he let me disappear so he could rise. Murmurs turned into outrage. Guests backed away, shaken. Phones were out, recording, posting, whispering. Ethan tried to speak, but no one was listening. Marissa looked at Lana. I was in your place once, believed every word, until it cost me everything. She didn't wait for a response. She turned and walked away, through the garden, past the flowers, beyond the gate, this time with her head high. Behind her, Ethan's empire didn't explode. It cracked, and soon, everything he'd built would come crashing down. From the truth he thought he'd buried. By morning, Marissa Lane had a new name on the internet. The woman who brought down a billionaire. Clips from the wedding were already viral. The audio leak. The projected documents. Her final words. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. She walked in with nothing but the truth. I hope every woman who's ever been silent sees this. She gave up everything to protect him, and he threw her away. But Marissa wasn't reading comments. She sat quietly on the edge of a city park bench, hair pulled back, a warm drink in her hands, real coffee this time, not from a shelter. She was tired, but not broken. From her phone, news anchors debated Ethan's legacy. Investors were already pulling out. His bride, Lana, had disappeared from social media, and the company Ethan once called his crown jewel under investigation. Marissa didn't smile. Not exactly. There was no joy in destruction, but there was peace in finally being seen. Her phone buzzed again, this time a message request from a journalist, then another, and another. Not pity, opportunity. A woman in yoga pants passed by, slowing down as she recognized Marissa. Hey, the stranger said, hesitant but kind. I saw the video. I just wanted to say thank you. Marissa looked up, surprised. The woman gave her a soft smile before continuing down the path. The wind picked up, gentle and cool. For the first time in a long time, it didn't feel bitter. Marissa looked at the sky. No more running. No more hiding. The world knew the truth now. And Ethan? He finally had to live in it. 3 days later, Marissa stood in front of a mirror that didn't belong to a public restroom or a shelter. It was framed in gold, clean, quiet, warm. She wore a crisp blazer, secondhand but beautiful. Her hair was neatly brushed, her expression calm. Behind her, a production assistant poked her head in. "You're on in 5. Marissa nodded. The studio wasn't flashy, but it felt surreal. A woman who once slept in her car was now being invited to speak on national television. Not for scandal, not for sympathy, for truth. She stepped onto the small set, where the host smiled and gestured to the chair. "Marissa Lane, thank you for being here. Millions have seen the video, but many don't know the full story. What made you finally speak up?" Marissa took a breath, looked right into the lens. "I didn't want revenge," she said softly. "I wanted to stop disappearing." The host blinked, visibly moved. Marissa continued, voice steadier now. "For years, I let someone else tell my story, turn me into a cautionary tale, or worse, erase me. But the truth doesn't go away. Even if it gets buried, it finds a way out." Viewers at home leaned closer. It wasn't a performance. It was a reckoning. "And for anyone out there who's been silenced," she added, "you don't have to stay quiet forever. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not invisible." Later that evening, Marissa sat once more on her favorite park bench, now her own bench in a way. Her inbox overflowed with interviews, podcast invites, and even a small publisher offering her a book deal. But for now, she was just watching the sunset. The sky was soft with pinks and gold. A breeze passed by, gentle like the closing of a chapter. A little girl and her mother walked past. The mother paused, looked at Marissa, then nodded with quiet respect. Marissa nodded back. No more shame. No more silence. She wasn't the woman who crashed a billionaire's wedding anymore. She was the woman who spoke, and the world finally listened.